I really believe in CeeDee Lamb. I like the Cowboys. I like what they're doing. This is a team where the coaching staff has favorites, and they love CeeDee Lamb. Before he was even drafted, they handpicked him to have the number 88, and they have fed him the ball ever since then. They got rid of Amari Cooper when they didn't even need to, just to make sure that CeeDee Lamb could be featured in that offense. And he's done nothing but produce. He's got a quarterback in Dak Prescott, who, although is not being extended currently, we'll see what the future holds at that quarterback position. I would say his quarterback situation is much better than Justin Jefferson's right now. It's, I would say, the same as Jamar Chase's. And, really just like what CeeDee Lamb was able to do. This is a really good player. And with Justin Jefferson, we all know what Justin Jefferson can do. He's broken so many records at this point where I know a lot of people do have him as the wide receiver one. And, that makes sense. But without Kirk Cousins being there anymore, he himself coming off the injury, Justin Jefferson, he bounced back from that. But, they drafted a wide receiver in Jordan Addison in the first round. So, there's not necessarily tough competition, but Addison proved he could step up when Justin Jefferson was down this past season. So I really think that CeeDee Lamb has no competition around him, whereas Justin Jefferson at least has a threat in Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson, even Aaron Jones. And this might just be a down season overall if they do end up just going with the JJ McCarthy in the draft. And hey, I'll say that with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, that's a guy who I actually would like to put at wide receiver one. We just haven't seen the numbers follow, and that's just what it is. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, this is the guy who I continuously see in tiers below here. And TD, this is something you taught me, man. This guy is going to produce. He is one of the best receivers in the league. He's got a stable quarterback situation, regardless of what you think of that quarterback. He's not going anywhere. This Lions team is all in. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the safest assets you can have in Dynasty. Look at the ages here. Amon-Ra is the same age as pretty much all these guys in the same range other than Marvin Harrison Jr. There's nothing other than the draft capital when they first were drafted that would set them apart. And I think people still have that in the back of their mind for why they're not willing to put Amon-Ra in the same tier as these guys. And the reason I do have the other guys at least ahead of him is because if I know I can trade away a CeeDee Lamb and get Amon-Ra plus, I'll do that. I'll do that today. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., hey, it's a bit of a reach. And really, I wanted to update these tiers after Malik Neighbors' pro day today. But, man, Marvin Harrison Jr., this guy, he just looks incredible. I've been watching the film a little bit more seriously, and this guy is just so good. I like the size. His body size reminds me of a CeeDee Lamb. And I just think he's got everything he needs to get drafted highly, especially from all the reports we're hearing. And, really just think he's going to have a good career ahead of him. So I want to give you the floor, TD. What do you think of this tier list here so far?
I like it. I love it 90%. 90% of the guys you got, I agree with. And I actually respect the guy that I don't agree with. And you probably know who that guy is. But I love that you got CeeDee now. The rankings that you have in this tier, I could push back. What I would say about Justin Jefferson, and I saw it this year with Nick Mullins throwing him the ball. It doesn't matter. Especially when you have a coach that's going to draw up plays for him, that's bigger than a guy that's even more talented. So no matter who's playing quarterback for Justin Jefferson, they're going to draw up 15 plays a game to try to get him the ball. And he's probably going to get about probably 11 catches a game when he's healthy, 12 catches a game. None of these other guys, to me, they don't need, their team doesn't need them to be hyper-targeted to win. CeeDee Lamb, if a good running back goes to Dallas, it could hurt CeeDee. Last year, what helped CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard didn't. Boom. So I love CeeDee Lamb. I love that hyper-targets him. And I like that they even got into it this year. I think it makes them even better because they're going to grow together. So I respect that you're having CeeDee number one, and I love that you put Justin Jefferson over Jamar in a Dynasty rankings. Because in Dynasty, no matter who his quarterback is, you got a guy who's going to be super targeted and always going to get between the targets. With Cincinnati, I don't believe they always going to use Jamar Chase every single time, every single game like they're going to use Justin Jefferson. They could have a strong run game. Like, even though Joe Mixon is not there, they can run the ball heavily. Same thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, but it was basically the value. So the guy that I don't agree with per se is Marvin Harrison. And let me tell you why. He could it depends on the landing spot. So if he lands to the right team, like if he goes to Arizona, you could be right. But I think by him not being a hyper athletic guy, being a more of a route technician, I compared him to Devontae Adams. I believe that it's that like guys like Sauce Gardner and other tough corners, even Sneed, who just got traded to the Tennessee Titans, could give him a hard time because he don't have an NFL body yet. Pause. He don't have the muscles to get off the line of scrimmage against tough, good corners and man-to-man. And listen, if you play off of him, he's going to beat you every time. I don't care Sauce Gardner or whoever. His route running, his knowledge of the game with his father is impeccable. But how you beat a young wide receiver for his stature is bump and run. And I think he's going to struggle some games against good, solid corners, and it's going to cost him probably to be a top 24 guy that's going to be safe than to be a top 5 guy. But after this year, I mean, if you wanted to put him there, I would have totally agree. But who knows? Like I said, you still could be right. I just wouldn't put him there right now.
Yeah. Hey, and the thing is, we know the hit rate for a lot of these first-round players is closer to 50% than we would like to think. So it's a little bit dangerous, but wanted to go ahead and just get him in here, man. So I appreciate the feedback on those. So let's go ahead and pull this off, and let's jump into the next tier. All right, in Tier A, we've got Puka Nacua at number 6, Garrett Wilson, number 7, A.J. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Chris Olave, Drake London, and Nico Collins. All right, man, Puka, great season, one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen from any player. Guy was drafted very late. You know, this is kind of one of those Amon-Ra St. Brown situations, except Puka hit from the jump, and he was good right off the bat, and people still took a little while to catch on to it. You know, I traded for him in some spots, but man, it was really tough to deny what he did, and I think that bias is still even in my head. It was hard to get him up here, but I just said, no, I'm gonna give him his respect. If he can't do it again next year, that's fine, but he's in a great situation with Matthew Stafford. I like the fact that he does have someone to take away defenders on the other side in Cooper Kupp. So I think Puka has no reason not to be able to do what he did again. And his last game of the season was in the playoffs, and he went off. 181 yards, I think. So he just continued to ball. Garrett Wilson, this is the guy who just has some of the highest targets. Let me get the numbers up here. Garrett Wilson, he was a target monster, man. Really bad quarterback play. So I don't have to go too deep into Garrett Wilson's situation. We know that if Aaron Rodgers can be healthy, then he's going to be in store for a good season. A.J. Brown, really high points per game, 17 points per game. That's in his range. I'm looking for people that are producing. So, like Malik Neighbors, this is someone I think is going to be able to produce right off the jump. He's got that 4.35 speed. Really explosive player. He showed today at his LSU Pro Day. Had the 10'9" broad jump and the 42.5-inch vertical. I mean, this guy is explosive. I play in campus to Canton leagues where you have a college team and you also have a dynasty team, and instead of rookie draft picks, you just already have college players, and you can start them in the lineup too. Right? Yeah, but I'm actually starting the college players and getting points for them. So there's like a separate side where you can win a title on the college side only, and then you have a separate side for the dynasty team where you can win over there. And on my bachelor party, I had just drafted my campus to Canton team like a month before. And the first game of the season, we're in Vegas. First game is LSU, maybe versus Appalachian State or Alabama. I can't remember. It's something with the A. And everybody was looking at Kayshon Boutte, but I was like, y'all need to be watching for Malik Neighbors. This guy can cook. And he ends up showing that he can be a number 1 target in that offense with a lot of competition in Brian Thomas Jr. And that team had a Heisman winning quarterback. So, he made him look good, or they made each other look good, but really good chemistry. I like what he can do at the next level. So we got Tyreek Hill. This is just one of the best producers we've seen at the wide receiver position. Yes, sir. I think I got roasted in one of my first ranking videos for having Tyreek in the B tier because I was, really heavily weighting the age. And one of the things I decided was you got to focus on the windows that people are trying to win. Okay, so Tyreek Hill, he's going to be healthy. This next 2 seasons, he did come out and say, "Hey, I'm retiring after this contract." Maybe he doesn't, but at the end of his contract, he'll be 32, I believe. His game is predicated on speed. Maybe he wants to just get ahead of that because he said he wants to get into streaming and stuff like that. But right now, Tyreek Hill's been one of the most dominating wide receivers we've had in the game. You can see here he's one of the highest with receiving yards. So, Tyreek Hill is really killing it for us. Gonna keep playing him. As long as he's out there, he's a good option. And Chris Olave, really young player, came in the league right off the ground running. He was actually drafted behind Drake London in real life and just showed that he can be consistent, produce a year in and year out. Overtook Michael Thomas immediately. Overcame a lot of just okay offense and still get demanding a lot of targets. And now Drake London, he also raised from my last version of this type of rankings where he gets Kirk Cousins. I like where there was a stat I saw where every one of Kirk Cousins' previous wide receiver ones, they're like top 10 wide receivers, and I mean he just continues to just be really able to support and lock in on the number one wide receiver. And then Nico Collins, he's connected to young platinum arm God, as some of our Carolina friends like to say. The Carolina Panthers very sad they didn't get CJ Stroud, and Nico Collins is benefiting from that. And this really just elevated his career. Maybe Collins was always really good. This guy's 6'4". He's got that prototypical size and got some speed. But with the CJ Stroud, you hope they re-sign Nico Collins, because one of the other tough parts is Tank Dell or Nico Collins. That's a tough call. But either way, man, I like what these guys can do. So what do you think of this A tier?
I like the A tier. It's only one, well, I would say two players that I would contest a little bit. I think you should swap Marvin Harrison and Tyreek Hill, and the reason why. Tyreek Hill is Dynasty, but
yeah.
I always tell people, you play Dynasty to win championships. You don't play Dynasty to show people off your young studs. So that's the difference with me, the way I rank. That's why I'm like, if I could buy on Tyreek Hill for a second round pick, which nobody probably can really do that, I would definitely do that. But I believe I was flip Tyreek and Marvin Harrison Jr. Malik Neighbors, I like him. I think he's more of a yak guy. I don't know if his route running is good, but I don't think you really have to have the route running. I think his speed, if he can get past these DBs, he's going to make guys that are maybe more technical sound or have better technique and stronger, but he's going to be able to beat them with his speed. So his pro day was very, very important to me. I actually moved him up a little bit because I liked a few other guys a little bit over him. But the speed shows me that he can push, beat defenses and make defenses put safety over the top of him, which helps everybody out. And I believe speed is more important than route running now with this NFL. AJ Brown, I've been on AJ Brown. That was one of the first guys that I talked about when I did my channel. I always called him AJ Brown, new brother in town. The Doo-Doo Brown song. I don't know if you're familiar with the Doo-Doo Brown song. But Garrett Wilson is very good. He just had quarterback problems. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to hyper-target him. Puka Nacua is a guy that grew on me that I wasn't on. I'm not going to take any credit for this guy. He came out of nowhere. I can't scout everybody. And I'm going to tell you what sold me. I thought the guy, I was like, after this year, I'm like, this guy's solid. He's getting hyper-targeted. And then I was sadly mistaken. When I saw him play in the NBA All-Star game,
yeah.
I said, oh my God, this guy is a phenom. Man, did you see him out there at the All-Star game?
Yeah.
He's physically
that was
strong.
like right after him doing the baseball game too for the Travis Scott thing.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he had like a run of 3 days where he played 3 different sports, because he was in the Pro Bowl, then did the baseball celebrity game, I think for HBCUs for Travis Scott, and then right after that he was in the NBA All-Star game. I'm like, this guy is cooking.
Right. So I'm thinking, guys, everybody like Cooper Kupp. I like Cooper Kupp, but I think he's going to be the hyper-targeted guy. You saw it in the playoff game. Now, you can say Cooper Kupp was hurt. I think Cooper Kupp is a guy that's going to be nicked up. He already had not a terrible, but he had an ACL tear. So he's not going to be like, he's not that fast. And that's fine. He's still going to be a great underneath route runner. But in order for this team to go to the next level, and I think Matthew Stafford could be a sleeper MVP candidate, I think they're going to have hyper-targeted Puka Nacua if he can stay healthy. Puka Nacua is him. If you wanted to put Puka Nacua up there, that would be saucy. But I would understand it. I'd rather put him up there than Marvin Harrison. But we only see 1 year from Puka, so I understand. Nico Collins, I like that you put him up there, man. Nico, I didn't think he could run routes the way he did. When CJ Stroud got there, all of a sudden Nico was running great routes. It shows you what a good quarterback can do. The game has changed, man. The game has completely changed. Drake London has had bad quarterback play, so you have to look over that and put him where he's supposed to be. I still think he is a second-tier guy that you got him. Chris Olave, that's one of the guys that I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I heard your content. I was surprised you a little lower on it, but is it there's no explosion Really? You think it's more because
No,
he's just
he's explosive, man. He was more explosive than Jackson Smith-Njigba and Marvin Harrison Jr. when they played.
yeah,
But
but
he's smaller, bruh. He's a small
yeah,
guy. See,
yeah,
Amon-Ra St. Brown is short, but he's built like a running back. So is Tyreek Hill. So is Puka Nacua. These guys are sturdy. Pause.
yeah,
So I think Chris Olave, when you laying pads on him and you putting your hands on, that's what I'm talking about. Even Marvin Harrison is going to struggle with that his rookie year. When these physical grown men, it's just like your father. You remember when you turn 17, 18, you're like, okay, I work out.
that grown man strength.
Like, that grown man strength is something else, bro.
Yeah.
So I believe that he struggles against grown man strength. And I think he should be one of the best slot receivers in the game. I think they should move and let him play slot and draft a wide receiver. Or maybe use A.T. Perry and Rashid Shaheed on the outside and let Chris Olave get 10 targets a game in the slot.
I hope they use A.T. Perry more.
He could be a top 12 guy.
Yeah, I agree, man. And just a quick correction. You were going in order, and I thought you were talking about C.J. Stroud at the All-Star game, who also was looking good. He was the one that was at the Travis Scott game.
Okay.
After the Pro Bowl, so that was my bad. And I wanted to quickly note two things. So Nico Collins, for those that are worried, the splits of him with Tank Dell in and out of the lineup, 9 games with Tank Dell, 7.4 targets, 5.1 receptions, 80 yards, half a touchdown, and 16.4 fantasy points. And then at the 8 games without Tank Dell, it's pretty much the same. You'll notice, just about a point and a half more without Tank Dell in the lineup. So these guys have been able to work well together. For people that are worried about, hey, Tank Dell's coming back, so that's going to take away from Nico Collins. I don't see that. So shout out to this guy, Nick Penikoff, for that stat. And I did have one more that I wanted to drop before we move on about Drake London, where I was on a podcast recently with the FF Dynasty. Shout out to those guys. One of their contributors, Austin Abbott, really great follow. He had this stat I saw about Drake London and Kirk Cousins' #1 wide receiver finishes by year. So 2022 wide receiver 1. Doesn't matter who the player was, but that's who Kirk Cousins was supporting. In 2021, he had the wide receiver 4 on his team. In 2020, it was the wide receiver 6. 2019, it was a wide receiver 24. And in 2018, there was actually 2 players in the top 10, wide receiver 7 and wide receiver 10. So London's in a good spot with Kirk Cousins. He just has to hope that Cousins gets a full recovery off that injury. But with the way that contract was so heavily guaranteed, I think the Falcons were either desperate or they believe they're very confident in what the recovery for
Bro, that ain't no money. I want people to understand that. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to get that in real quick before you moved on. Bro, that's not really no money. Quarterback money, bro, that's elite, is $65 million. That's elite money. $50 million is a discount.
Okay.
$50 million is a discount.
I was focused on the guarantee part of it.
That's why Dak Prescott wants $60 million. That's like going rate for a top 12 quarterback. So we gotta grow, guys. Just like right now, like the what would you call it? The when stuff go up, the grocery stores and gas go up. Inflation. And we got to grow with the inflation. Kirk Cousins was a good deal. Now, do you want to go and get a multi-year deal on an older quarterback? That's the question. But as far as what they got him for, that money, that's not even money. Look what Geno got last year. Geno got guaranteed 70-80 million. Geno Smith.
Yeah. All right, man. That's a good point. Hey, TD, you mind go ahead and jump in the mock draft? I sent it to the Twitter link. I just want to make sure you get your spot before I send it out to everybody else.
Okay.
All right, and then I'm going to go ahead, guys, with the next tier B. Oh, a little preview. Next tier, don't try to see that quite yet. All right, so at number 14, I got Rome Odunze, another rookie out of Washington. He was in that college championship game. Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Devonta Smith, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell. All right, so with Rome Odunze, I think I might as well just start off with another little stat here. So Matt Harmon, he's the reception perception founder, and recently came out with some reception perception for some of the receivers here. And he said that Rome Odunze is the first player with an all-green reception perception. And this guy can run a lot of routes, and he's physical. He's got the size. I believe it's 6'3". And really, you just got to factor in the conference, since it's not the SEC. What's the competition like? But I think this guy's really good, man. Um, and he wasn't the reason they lost that game. He still played really well, so I give him a lot of credit for what he's been able to do. It's pretty high, but a lot of what I'm doing is factoring in what I'm hearing from the college scout, or excuse me, the NFL draft analysts to where players are going, and just trying to factor in like who's going to get an opportunity to be a number one wide receiver. And Brandon Ayuk, he is capable of being a number one wide receiver. He was making some noise this week for potentially wanting to get traded, but the Niners are saying they don't want to trade him. They're coming off a Super Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised if he's trying to get an extension.
Right.
How many times has he gone to the Super Bowl with this team? Twice, right? So,
Right.
Maybe that's more of what it is. But still, there's a Deebo Samuel, there's a George Kittle, there's a Christian McCaffrey. Everyone's asking for targets. So I'm shooting for upside with the Odunze rookie that maybe he can get that shot. You got to, again, remember, guys, that we're thinking about different perspectives. If it's a startup draft and I'm going into it trying to win now, then I'm not just going for all these rookies. But if there's an established league and I know the situation, then maybe I prefer to go with the 22-year-old versus the 26-year-old because I've got different things that I consider as the age cliff and the age window. And, for wide receiver, it's a little bit later than a running back. But, I've got like 31 to 34 years old for a wide receiver. And it's more just like the trade market. Again, I want to at least be ahead of that instead of letting the players retire on my roster. Ayuk is not anywhere near there. I'm not saying that at all. Just some of the reasons I might go with the younger player. Jalen Waddle, when his first season, he showed that he can produce in the league. With Tyreek Hill, he has some more down seasons, but still been able to produce. It just seems like because they prioritize Tyreek Hill, Waddle's money is coming from these big plays for fantasy at least. So it's a little bit harder to depend on. And it doesn't. I'm not sold that the team believes Tua is their guy going forward. So it just depends on what's going on there. But I do love the player a lot. Like the speed. I like how everyone on that team is fast. So it's hard to guard anyone. DJ Moore, this is someone that I'm just never going to fade. I believe that even with Keenan Allen, he can produce. I do think in 2024 is going to hurt, though. I am really high on Caleb Williams because of all the options that he's going to have. But long term, Keenan Allen is very old. I'm not too worried about the dynasty value for DJ Moore. This is a guy who came in as one of the best athletes at the wide receiver position. Michael Pittman Jr. just got that contract extension. I feel safe with him, growing with Anthony Richardson. What else he got to prove? Really, he doesn't have a ton of competition. I do like Josh Downs. It's just, we'll see what they do. I feel pretty good about him. And in this range, I am looking for number ones at the position. Devonta Smith, he is a number two, but I don't. This is a guy that is just an incredible player. Heisman winner, been to the Super Bowl, really good character. I like this guy a lot. He can play. He can produce. Rashee Rice in his first season with his Kansas City Chiefs coming out of SMU. Man, he did everything he was asked to do. I do see this team potentially adding a receiver. I'm not sure about him being the number one, but Kelsey is the oldest tight end in the league. Eventually, there's a scenario where Rashee Rice is at minimum just always the number two for Patrick Mahomes. I know they got Marquise Brown in there. Not too worried about that long term. It's just a 1-year deal. And then we got Tank Dell with CJ Stroud. This guy, he right out of Houston, they CJ Stroud called it. This guy can just get open. It's hard for anyone to stay with this guy. He had that injury at the end of the season. It was just a freak accident, a blocking play where he got rolled up on. Seems like he's going to be fine. One of the fastest players in the league. Is a hard player to guard. So what do you think about this tier, TD?
I like this tier. I really don't have anything to say. I could go and fight with you on the rookies, but who knows what these rookies are going to do? We don't know where they're going. If Odunze goes to the right place, I mean, he could be one of the best wide receivers as a rookie. I love the Ayuk. I love the Waddle. I love the DJ Moore. I love the Michael Pittman. And Michael Pittman has moved up. I never thought he was a bad player. He didn't really hit his ceilings the first years in the league. First couple of years. Now, what I see what he did with Anthony Richardson, he's there. He's kind of moved up like a Nico Collins to me. Devontae Smith could easily be in the number two over Chris Olave. I love Devontae Smith. Jalen Hurts struggled a little bit, so they kind of hurt Devontae Smith. Rashee Rice, I don't know. I think he's going to be the number two option there, but to me, he's more of like to me, the way they got him the ball was kind of like Mecole Hardman, but I think he's a better route runner than Mecole Hardman. But he had a lot of screens. If you look at, I love to look at his average depth per reception. I think it's probably low, but that's okay. You still playing with an Andy Reid offense. He runs hard. I think he's a good player. I just don't know if he necessarily. I think it's a year-to-year basis with him. So in Dynasty, I would try to sell high on him and get and draft one of these rookies. Just for the fact that Andy Reid don't need anybody outside of Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that's the only two guys that he needs. Anybody else is a rotating tree. Pacheco, I would sell high on Pacheco too. We're not talking about running backs, but I just don't trust anybody on that offense because he don't need them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mahomes
drafts a bust and just keeps going.
Right.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire don't work out. It's okay. I'll still win and get a few free Super Bowl rings.
Right. They drafted CH over Jonathan Taylor. Did anybody ever? Do people know that?
I keep wondering that, man.
Jonathan Taylor.
So my wife is from Kansas, and so I'm all in with the Kansas City side of the house, man. And that's just crazy how they operate and still win because they got the best quarterback.
Right. And Tank Dell, to me, he has to stay healthy. He's a smaller guy, so the only thing, if he stays healthy, I love him in this tier. I love that you're looking towards the future. You're not just going off of what guys what they've done in the past, like Marvin Harrison. That's why I didn't really want to say a lot about that because I understand it. You got to look going forward. Tank Dell going forward could easily be in tier 2, the A tier. So I love that list, man. That list I probably agree with more than any list that you had the other tiers. I love that third tier.
Appreciate it. All right, and before we go on to the next tier, everybody make sure to like and share this content. Man, appreciate everyone for showing up today. I want to go ahead and get this link out to y'all just to try to fill up this mock draft. So I'm going to post it in the chat. We got a 12-team Superflex Dynasty rookie mock draft. Just rookies only. Going to go 5 rounds. We'll start that off in a little bit. Just posted that in the chat. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the next tier. And I might have to just get rid of that. Okay. All right, so we got in C tier Tee Higgins, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, George Pickens, Jaden Reed, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Deebo Samuel, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, and Mike Evans. All right, Tee Higgins, this is a guy who is attached to Joe Burrow right now. He's asking for a trade. If he becomes the number 1 on another team, I like that. I like Joe Burrow more than I like Tee Higgins on another team, though. I'll just be honest about that. I like what Joe Burrow can bring to the table. He went to the Super Bowl really early on. This is a guy you want to be attached to if you're a receiver in the league. Zay Flowers, he's scoring fantasy points at a young age. He's already shown he can be the number 1 wide receiver. The Ravens have drafted a first-round wide receiver year after year after year, basically 3 years in a row. Bateman, they're saying, is going to get more targets this year. Zay has a good ability to get open, so that's great for Lamar Jackson because he's already putting the defense on edge when he's running in the open field, and then all he needs is Zay Flowers to break loose, and he can just take one to the house.
Correct.
And you see how they changed some of these rules. This is one of the teams that sparked that rule with Mark Andrews getting injured with the hip drop tackle. And, I just think it's going to be harder and harder to bring some of these really elusive yak guys down. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Right. There's going to be a lot of points scored. I'm telling you. It's like the NBA.
Yeah. They want offense. They want more offense. And we're going to get it, too. All right, so Jordan Addison, he took over for an injured Justin Jefferson, proved he can do it. They drafted him to do. And I like when guys have that duo where, we've seen multiple times where guys can be top 12 wide receivers in the same offense. May not be this year. It may just be Justin Jefferson eating. There was a thing where when Devontae Adams was, even still now, but, a lot of times I called it was like a black hole of targets with Devontae Adams. Like, if you're another receiving option with Devontae Adams, sorry, don't draft that guy. But Jordan Addison has proven he can still produce with all these other targets around. I like what he can do. George Pickens, he's a bit of a riser with Deontay Johnson getting moved out. He's now with the Carolina Panthers, so George Pickens has a chance to be wide receiver 1. I've already predicted Steelers are going to be drafting Troy Franklin in the first round. Maybe that's the reach because there's a lot of talent at some other positions, but I'm going with Troy Franklin to the Steelers in the first round. I don't think they're just going to let Pickens and Pat Freiermuth be the only options here. Still like what he was able to do at the end of the year. He has some boom games there. Jaden Reed, really good points per game right out the gate in his rookie season. A lot of targets, but no one expected Jordan Love and that team to do what they can do. I like the coach as well. Not all these teams have that dynamic where the coach is just someone that's also kind of getting the boost, like the Brandon Ayuk with Shanahan, and they're all from that same tree, out of Packers too. So I like what those type of coaches can do. Same with Puka Nacua and Sean McVay. Anyway, DK Metcalf. This team is loaded. They're ready, man. They've got all these pieces. And they made sure they got a backup quarterback. DK is just a freak athlete, man. I'm not. So there's a thing where you can play for a stable producer, but sometimes you just need to win a week, and DK has that ability to win a week. That's possible. Like maybe he's going to average. Maybe he has a game where he get 8, and then another game where he get 24. Versus someone who's always getting you that 12. Give me some of that upside with DK Metcalf. Jackson Smith-Njigba, the team drafted him in the first round. They knew that they want him to eventually take over for Tyler Lockett, but Tyler still got some juice in the tank. But we know what the plan is. Historically, you want your wide receivers that's in the first round to produce a lot more than this year. So it's actually kind of a mark against him. That's something you got to be a little worried about. I'm personally willing to trade Jackson Smith-Njigba in certain situations if I can get the right value. It just depends. But Deebo Samuel, just because I know everyone's still really high on him, but Deebo Samuel is more the age why I got him down here. But this is a really explosive guy. You can still see there's a high points per game, 16, and the offense is really good. He's somebody that Purdy goes to a lot. Stephon Diggs, with Gabe Davis leaving, we'll see who they replace him with, but it's going to be a receiver. So, it's going to be a rookie receiver. So I don't see how Diggs is not getting hyper targeted this year. And Devontae Adams, I just mentioned him. He just have Jacoby Myers there with him, and they were able to coexist. Maybe there's an upgraded quarterback even in the draft. Maybe they go Michael Penix, but they did get Gardner Minshew, and he went to the Pro Bowl. Without even having the offseason thinking he was the starter. I heard it's still a competition between him and Aiden O'Connell, but either way, Devontae Adams is going to eat, and Mike Evans. Same thing. He's going to eat too. This guy's really good. We know Mike Evans is. I don't even. He's still producing. Just signed a new contract for a couple more years, so that's the green light for me to keep drafting him at least this year on the first year of that deal. So, what do you think about this tier?
I like it. It's straight up dynasty. You got the guys. These guys produce and redraft, but these guys you're not buying on unless you need it. I would call this a championship tier. Most of these guys, like if you want to win a championship, you go buy on some of these guys. Stephon Diggs is a great buy. Devontae Adams, Mike Evans might cost a little bit more than what you want to. Debo is a great buy. DK is a great buy. George Pickens is a great buy. T. Higgins could be a great buy. I don't know. It just depends on your league. I don't know what people think of. I think these are win now players, but for Dynasty, I think you got them ranked perfectly. The only one I would fight you on was Jackson Smith-Njigba. I wasn't high on. I like Zay Flowers over him because of speed. But when it comes to straight up route running, and he's strong too now, you got to look. He reminds me of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not saying he's Amon-Ra, but he could put up numbers that Amon-Ra put up if he was in the right offense. So I think Jackson Smith-Njigba, actually, if somebody wants to get off of him, get him. Don't spend a first round pick because all you're doing is being redundant. He was a first round value last year. But if you can get a second, I'm definitely buying low on him. Debo is a guy, it's like you said about DK Metcalf. They are win their guys. Bro, I love that you said that. A lot of people don't understand that. I got a lot of flack for Christian Watson, but that's what Christian Watson is for me, is what you said with DK. He can win me a week. Win week players is what win you fantasy football championships. Having Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson don't necessarily win you a championship. They get you to the playoffs. You got to have guys. You know how many teams lose to like teams that have these volatile guys like DK Metcalf and stuff like that? Yeah. It happens all the time. So, brother, I love that your C class. I think it's one of the best tiers that you have as far as me agreeing with it. That's just what I agree.
All right. We'll keep moving through this. And when you get a chance, go ahead and share the link with your squad too on your end, TD. All right. That link for the mock draft. And then here in D tier, I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker. Brian Thomas Jr., he's going to have his part of the LSU Pro Day. I believe his part is tomorrow. I don't think we got the numbers back yet. Cooper Kupp, Xavier Worthy, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, you just mentioned, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, and Adonai Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Marquise Brown, Lad McConkey. It gets tough with the receivers. There's a lot of receivers to fit into these tiers. So I had to make it 2 rows here. So Brian Thomas Jr., 6'3", really fast wide receiver. I think in the high 4.3 range, something like that. Cooper Kupp, we know what he is. It's just the age is starting to get to him, and he has had the injuries, so it's not just a speculation. And he has another player that can command targets as well. But hey, if someone's giving away for a second, like you said, I'll still take it out in the win now mode.
Right.
Xavier Worthy, fastest player ever in NFL history at the combine. And the history says the fastest players at the combine do not produce for fantasy, unfortunately. And sorry, let me fix the camera here for us. And I'll get you back, TD, in a second.
That's fine.
And so Keenan Allen, so with him being with the Bears, that's a little bit tough. But I'm not worried about it. I think it's good for the offense to have a really good player like DJ Moore opposite of him. Keenan Allen's always had a really good, Mike Williams on the other side. So I think he'll be all right. It's hard to project, but look at those points per game. 21 points per game from Keenan Allen. I know he was the only option there last year, but this is what this guy does. I'm not fading the talent just because he's on a new team. Amari Cooper continues to produce wherever he goes. They added Jerry Jeudy, but just haven't seen it from Jerry Jeudy to think that Cooper can't produce. And then Christian Watson, I just love the team. It's so hard for these defenders to guard all of these different players when you got a Christian Watson burning down the field, and you got to watch for Jaden Reed, who's catching everything around the middle, and you got a Josh Jacobs who's blowing you up, every play, just wearing down the defense. So this is a scary team, scary young team next year, and he could just get open. And like you said, you might just get that, 1 or 2 touchdowns. If you remember his first season where he had the most touchdowns of anybody, like the last 6 games of the season, just going off.
Right.
And then, Calvin Ridley, newly signed to the Titans, got competition with DeAndre Hopkins, but really massive contract. We know he's going to get those yards. Christian Kirk is now by himself in Jags land. We expect him to draft someone most definitely 100%. But still, Kirk's getting his. I'll take that. Deontay Johnson, we saw what Adam Thielen could do. He was scoring a ton of points at the beginning of the season, but he just didn't have the juice or the help to sustain that the rest of the season. You're hoping for a step forward with Bryce Young. The coach there, David Canales, has been able to really help a lot of these quarterbacks just improve, like a Geno Smith and a Baker Mayfield. So we'll see what he can do with Bryce Young. I love what the Panthers are doing, though. They made another move today to get Jadeveon Clowney, and I'm actually using the mock from the Panthers website for mock here coming up. Okay, so Chris Godwin, he had one of those number 1 wide receiver seasons, not number 1 overall, but up there. He's good. He'll get you some solid points. Same with Terry McLaurin, just a steady Eddie. And this year he may get his best quarterback ever in the draft. And they're going to be a rookie, but it has not mattered who Terry has had throwing him the ball. He's been producing. And then I got a few rookies down here at the bottom. Adonai Mitchell from Texas ran that 4.3, 540 in good size. I think in the 6'2" range. The metrics aren't necessarily there just due to lack of production, switching from Georgia and going to Texas, and there's just a lot of mouths to feed to Texas. So the numbers aren't all there. Behind it, the profile of the body type and everything, size, speed is there. And then he's getting mocked up pretty high. So we'll just see. I think the landing spot's going to have to determine it. And then Troy Franklin, this is a guy, did you watch those Michael Penix Jr. versus Bo Nix games this past season? How they were going at it?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch them live. I watched a little film on both of them, but I didn't watch them live.
Man, even Troy Franklin versus the hyped up Colorado, Deion Sanders and them, that was both teams were 3-0.
I saw that one. I saw that one.
Okay, there we go. I was looking for one of like Troy Franklin. He was looking dominant. Like they were going to him. Bo Nix trusted him in any situation to just try to stay ahead of that team that was on them and had all the hype going into that game, and they won that game. And Troy Franklin showed some really secure hands. He got knocked in the Dynasty community's opinion because he had a slower 40 time and some gauntlet drills that didn't look as smooth. I still believe in the player. I've been looking at the numbers, and players that are in college getting 1,300 yards or more, there's just been a higher hit rate for them. And Troy Franklin, he's been cooking, man.
He's my number 2 wide receiver.
Okay. Draft. Yeah, I honestly won't be surprised if I raise Franklin when the draft's over.
Right.
I think I got psyched out, to be honest, by putting Adonai over him.
Right.
But they're the same tier for now. That's my cop out. Hollywood Brown joining the Chiefs. The guy, I believe, a first round wide receiver, and he's been kind of used and viewed as the number one receiver on the depth chart, kind of in most places that he's been to. So there's still a chance that he ends up actually supplanting Rashee Rice. Don't be surprised if you heard it here first. I'm just telling you, like, this is a good player, but the Arizona situation was awful. Kyler Murray was only there for half the season. Lavinaki, this is just a guy that I liked watching, but the guys in this tier are all starters. So I think this is one where I was self-critique and say I probably have to drop McConkey down a tier. But what do you think about the D tier?
I like it. I love Deontay this year, man. A lot of people been on Deontay for years. I wasn't that high on him. But this year I'm high on him. Because I know what you need to do with Bryce Young in order to get him better. Because this is what you do for rookie quarterbacks. You get guys that can get open quick. That way they don't have to hold on to the ball and take a lot of sacks. It helped Jared Goff with Cooper Kupp. I think CJ Stroud and got those type of guys are a little bit different. They can extend the plays, but for a regular rookie quarterback, you need guys who can get open in the phone booth, and Deontay Johnson can do that. Guys, don't be surprised if Deontay Johnson, if he stays healthy, he could be the Adam Thielen of this team last year. He could be a top 12 wide receiver. Chris Godwin is very, very, like, I feel like if he's been having the season that he's supposed to have, if he wouldn't have had a knee injury, you would probably have him in tier B. But because of the knee injury, you got him down low. I love getting him. When I'm going robust RB, I'm getting Chris Godwin as my first wide receiver. Terry McLaurin, okay. I don't know, man. If he stays with Washington, I don't really want him at all. I don't want to draft him. If he gets traded, then I like him. I think he's a good wide receiver. But for Washington, I think he's just overpriced as a wide receiver. He just has the name. But I like him as a player. I love Mitchell. The speed. I think he's going to be a good player. I think these are the guys that's going to go to the good teams that you're going to like to draft. Remember, where you're getting drafted to matters. Troy Franklin, I think, I'm a speed guy. He's getting behind. I didn't see a corner that he couldn't get behind. Now, I watched him against, what's the guy from Colorado? What's his name? The guy from Colorado, the corner. Deion's.
Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter. He was pushing Travis Hunter. It wasn't a lot of man-to-man, but Travis Hunter, he when he was on Travis Hunter, he ran some good in routes and was getting a little bit of separation. I love Troy Franklin. If he goes to a team like Kansas City or any of these teams that need a wide receiver, a speed guy, I think he could be really good. Marquise Brown is just a guy. I wouldn't draft him. I would fade him in any draft. I wouldn't draft him in Dynasty. I wouldn't draft him anywhere. If you need to get him, you acquire him during the season. Go ahead. Okay. What were you saying, Alex?
Now, who was the player again?
Marquise Brown.
Okay.
Yeah, Marquise Brown. I wouldn't try to. I just wouldn't draft him out. I would fade him totally. Maybe I would buy on him if I needed to. If I was getting ready to go to the playoffs and he's doing good for Kansas City, but I just wouldn't buy because he's volatile. I think his body cannot take the NFL beating on a 17-game season. Lad, man, that's one of the guys I have not actually, did any kind of research on. You're gonna have to fill me in on him. What has he done, bro? I haven't researched him at all.
So unfortunately, he didn't have a ton of great numbers. He's competing with Brock Bowers, but at the same time, this guy is always able to get open. And I think I got onto him after the Senior Bowl. That's when I started looking at him, and he had some really good route running. Really consistent ability. Great hands. He's not dropping balls, and I think this guy has a good chance to get drafted pretty high. From a lot of the mock drafts I'm seeing from the NFL themselves. They've got him either at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round. So again, I'm weighing some of that draft capital that these guys might get. Right. That's why, when I start seeing the tide shift towards Adonai over Franklin, I kind of lean that way, even though I still like Franklin. Because right now, I'm always going to say trust the NFL. That's the number one indicator of success as far as my hit rate versus the NFL hit rate. The NFL hit rate is not great either, but right. And one of the things I want to introduce later is a model for and let me get you back in here. Sorry about that. To be able to say, hey, can I get 5% better than NFL with the draft rate and stuff like that? But right now, one of the main key indicators I'm going to use is that draft capital to decide, hey, is this a guy I want to invest in? So, I mean, I like the trust that some of these teams are putting into him, but we'll see what ultimately ends up happening.
Right. And so you say he could have a Puka Nacua type not seasoned, but he's like a low guy like that, like a Puka Nacua?
Well, he's gonna get drafted much higher than Puka. It looks like he's on the radar for a lot of NFL teams. So I'm thinking second round, no later than second round is where it's kind of looking right now. But that I don't really know. We'll see what happens there. Yeah.
I trust you.
Yeah. No, I like Lad a lot. Really instinctual. I think he played running back in high school and some quarterback. He's really like creative and dynamic after the catch. So like he's really intelligent type of receiver, and he knows how to like keep the plays alive. So,
right. Well, you gave me the sauce with the quarterback, guys. When guys play quarterback, that's like a certain type of knowledge of the game. Usually, like look, Julia Edelman played quarterback. Antoine Randall played quarterback. It's been it's a couple other really, really top guys that play quarterback, and they might have changed their position in college. But it's a couple other guys that played quarterback in high school and a little bit in college. Travis Kelce was a quarterback. So man, that might be. Is he gonna be like a slot PPR monster type of guy?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, hey, but time will tell. But yeah, watch out for the young lad, man. Don't be surprised if he gets drafted pretty early. And man, let's get on to the next tier. Looks like the draft room's starting to fill up.
Okay.
All right, give me 1 second.
Yeah, guys, make sure, guys, you get into the rookie draft. This is going to help you. I know a lot of you don't do Dynasty. I offer Dynasty leagues. Actually, hopefully, I can get Alex into one of my Dynasty leagues. I do IDP. It's really, really fun. But guys, sign up for this. We're going to try to do a lot of mock drafts for Dynasty. So make sure you claim one of these spots before they get taken up.
Yeah, and just to round out the top 50, got Josh Downs, Jacoby Myers, Roman Wilson. You like Josh Downs, right?
Yes, I do like Josh Downs.
All right. I like him a lot. I'm thinking it's still going to be more Michael Pittman. We got to see how much Anthony Richardson actually throws the ball, but we know he can sling that thing through a wall pretty much. And Jacoby Myers showed that he can produce. He's more the unheralded type of receiver that doesn't get a lot of praise, but he's getting you those 13 points. I'll take that. Roman Wilson's another one of those young players. He was from Michigan, didn't get a lot of opportunities since the play style was more run heavy. But absolutely, I think that he showed a lot of good stuff at the Senior Bowl. His ability to get open, some sure-handedness, but more of a projection at this point. I don't even think he gets drafted ahead of Vlad. He could be in the third round. He just doesn't have the numbers behind him. A little bit tougher for him to get there.